No one, get this, no one can teach you creativity. No one. Zero. No one. No one. Don't expect other people to understand or appreciate that process work unless you transform your process, your ugly process, your grief, into something that is transformed. Have you ever looked at those super cool artists who seem to have it all and think, oh, I want to be like them, standing in all black in the gallery with a glass of wine, speaking into the camera about what they meant in their art? They're in the best stables, they're at all the parties, and they seem to be so secure. And you feel like an outsider looking in, thinking, how do they do it? How do they be so cool and so aloof? I want to be like that. I want to cure you of that envy right now. All through my career, I never liked the art scene. I didn't even get along with artists all that well. I had a couple of artist friends, but they were generally really earthy. And if I'm truthful, the more successful they were commercially, the more grounded and earthy they were. As for the ones that were associated with the universities, and I'm thinking of a couple in particular who'd never sold any work, but actually worked on arts grants, which they learned how to get with their university degree. So you don't learn anything about making your art relatable in an art degree. You learn about how you can hopefully get money even if it's unrelatable. You don't go to university to learn how to be an artist or to make you a better artist. Arts degrees in university should be reserved for, I don't know, the second stage in life. A 40-year-old having, their next phase in life where they want to learn about the history and the movement of art culturally and all that jazz. It's not for people that love art and want to make art and they want to put their art in the world and sell it. And the proof that your art has value in society is really, really simple. If someone's prepared to pay money for it, then it has value. And I don't care whether we're talking about low level or high level art. It's not a mystery. Your soul work is a different matter. Sometimes it hits the mark, sometimes it doesn't. That's the puzzle you've got to work out. But there isn't some high art, low art. The value in the society, the hardcore reality is the commercial value is based on if someone will pay for it. Now, if a university or an institution gives grants to artists so they don't have to worry about selling it and then they'll produce their work, which isn't money based, well, hallelujah. But that art doesn't necessarily have any value at all, even though they will acquire it and put it in the art gallery or in the art museum and have you think that you're a dum-dum because you don't understand it. That's all bullshit. That is a complete and utter load of crap. Do not buy it. And the principles are based on that if the artist is not driven by money, then the artist will actually create real art. I'm telling you, that is just a load of bullshit. It isn't how it works at all, even for the most serious artists in the world ever, in the past. Go through all the artists in history that are now known to be famous. Just go through them all. Those artists were commercially viable. You got it? They were commercially viable. Their work was good to look at. People wanted to buy it. Even some of Picasso's more abstract work, it was still significant. So this whole thing's been turned on its head. And the reason it's been turned on its head is because it is the justification of the bullshit university or the culture within that whole realm of nonsense that's trying to justify its existence. Do not go down that road. Don't get caught up in it. It's all bullshit. That's why you have to put up with going into an art museum and seeing their latest collection and throwing up. I know someone that worked in the archives of one of the state galleries, and he told me that down in the dungeons down below where they keep all their collections, he said it was full. It was full of rubbish, of junk art that they acquired using state funds, government funds, taxpayers' funds to indulge these various artists. Art grants are not how you create your career. You have to sell work. It is not a contradiction to soul work at all. There are ways that you can step across each side. Some of your work that you create for yourself is your own, it's in a way therapy for yourself. You have to process something. And unless you can actually do that process of transformation in a way that communicates to someone else, in a way that they can understand, someone else can relate to it, just don't even expect it to sell. Just forget about it. You know, don't put that out there as a measure of whether or not your work is, you know, any good. Why would someone want to buy something that's part of you actually sorting out the rubbish inside yourself? Unless they could relate to the message. You know, look at The Scream by Edward Munch. It's something that we go, oh my God, yeah. So if you paint your nightmares, unless they have some resonance with someone else, with a large someone else, they have to be made into almost metaphor, it won't work. No one wants to buy that. Think this one golden rule. When you're painting and you have an intention of selling that work, ask yourself this question. Would they hang that on their wall and want to get up every morning for 10 years and see it every morning? Ask yourself that one question. That will answer everything for you. Just throw all the other junk away in your head. Now, when you do your soul work, you use art as a form of processing it. I have a friend who is an art therapist, and she helps people use art like that. They use art to express themselves because art doesn't require language. You know, it's very fast. Expression, it comes out fast. And it doesn't have to be negotiated. It can be irrational. But don't expect other people to understand or appreciate that process work unless you transform your process, your ugly process, your grief, into something that is transformed. So the raw fear, grief, whatever, will only work if it can be related to in the outside world by others in a way that they want to live with it. They might enjoy looking at it because it reminds them how, oh, you've captured that very well. Doesn't mean they're going to want to buy it. They don't want to live with that feeling in their house. I happen to like dark paintings. Not everybody does. However, I have seen, and I'm going to make a video about this coming up, people take their grief, their suffering, their joy, some of it's awful, and they've taken that material, like I've always talked about in this alchemical process, they've somehow blurted it out into the canvas they're working on. And it's layers and layers and layers. And it ends up changing what it is so that it no longer looks like this thing, this one primitive emotion or this feeling. And it becomes something else completely different. It transforms. I will give you an example of that in a coming video of a lady that did this remarkably well with material. I've seen it in paint. Strokes and strokes and strokes, and suddenly the image that was there before transforms. It's something else. Guess what? That is how you transform consciousness. That's how you become transformed. You know, this is the individuation, whatever you want to call it, who knows, but it's where you transform your previous state into a new state of being. So you're not the same animal afterwards. No one Get this, no one can teach you creativity. No one, zero, no one, no one. You will never ever be able to be taught creativity. If anyone tries to teach you that, you should run 100 miles an hour the opposite direction. You can only be taught techniques, you know, and even then you don't have to be taught them, but it's helpful to know sometimes if you want stability in your material. You can be taught techniques, how to actually express yourself using materials, line form, whatever. But the rest of it is completely up to you. 99% of the learning in being a successful artist is marketing and business. Yep, as sad as that sounds. So you have to have a sound base in that. There's tons of tools to help you with that today. You used to have to know how to do all graphics and everything. Canva, there's programs like Canva. It's just like instant. You can do anything. That is just not a problem these days. Now, back to what I said before. The people inside those institutions, they're just such snobs and they look down on any artist that's actually doing well. So when we're looking at art galleries, the commercial galleries will rarely do that, but there's some commercial galleries that just think their shit doesn't stink, and they usually have those artists to match in their stable. Now, the biggest downside of being in one of those commercial gallery situations is don't expect to get along with the other artists in the stable. It's very rare that you will. There is so much envy and avarice, and you know, the jealousy thing is just huge. Everyone's just guarding their territory. It becomes extremely lonely, and that's, you know, one of the things I was talking about in my discussion about being in the studio for 6 to 12 months on your own and just creating work. It really is very lonely. We all like a bit of time on our own, but it gets a bit weird, especially when the outcome is only like a 2-hour wine tasting in the video I did just up here. So these are all just some of the traps of how you could get caught in these little ecosystems in the art world and not realise what's happened. Your ego can only stand you up for so long before you actually just get tired of it and you just want to be a real human being. I didn't get on that well with artists. I tended to get on better, believe it or not, with business people because they were, you know, realistic. You've got enough of that in yourself. You're like a bloomin' volcano. And you know, the other thing about being stuck in your studio, you make the work to communicate to the world, and yet you're actually stuck over there and you've still only got that 2 hours of communication with your opening. See, these are the problems with it. And you can understand why those artists in, you know, the streets of Paris, sitting there with their little easels, painting people, talking to people all day long. I can really understand what they're doing. So if you want to be an artist, do not do an arts degree. That's my advice. Never go near it. Just stay right away. Nobody in this world can teach you creativity. Never let them near it. The only thing that you can learn about art is basically click-clack technique. That's all. It's like the same thing as an artisan would learn. That's all you want to be taught. Yes, you can read art books and that will give you a really good feeling for maybe how to express yourself, but it's your expression. The main books you should have on your shelf when you're starting out should be how to use watercolour, you know, the encyclopedia for artist techniques and materials and that kind of thing. If you want to be a figurative drawer, then learn figure drawing. Go to those classes. Do things that teach you technique, how to see things differently, how to get perspective. That's just the pragmatics of art. You know, the rules on using acrylic and oil paint, stable materials, how to put a picture frame on your work, perspective, all those things. That's what you should be doing as far as learning art. Too many times I see these young people, they love doing art, from little kids. And their parents will say, well, you should really go and do an art degree because it's like, this thing about doing degrees, which is a complete and utter farce that was invented to shoot this industry through the roof. What a fraud that is. Now everybody's carrying these kids are carrying these $100,000 debts around with them. But this step, this taking your little artistic self straight out of school and into university to do an arts degree, oh my God, it's the most stupid thing you could do. I'm sorry, I apologise if you did that. I think you would already know. When I had my gallery up in Broome, I reckon 3 young people come to my gallery, fresh out of university, and you know what the question they had for me? I have just finished a degree. Could you please teach me how I can actually create an art career? They said, how did you do this? How did you create this amazing situation where you're making good money from your art? And that was where I had to undo everything that they had just dedicated 3 years to when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. It was worthless to them. It was really sad. And I remember I asked them, did they actually teach you any technique? And it was no, zero, nothing. Oh boy, that's crazy, isn't it? This art degree business, that is just crazy. Look, I just want to assure you out there, for you artists and creatives that don't have formal qualifications, it's probably one of the worst things you could possibly do for your art career. Being a self-taught artist gives you far more scope, but put in the effort to learn the bones of your trade, like how to use materials, because that just makes it easier and faster for you. But people like abstract expressionists, and I love abstract expressionism, there are rules even in that. There are narrative structures inside an abstract painting, including non-representational abstract work. There are actually things that visually work and that visually don't work. It's just harmonies. It's like the golden triangle, or all those sort of things. It actually is that if you just had all these similar coloured strokes or toned strokes, it just wouldn't do anything. So there are these little rules. It's worth learning, compositional type rules, colour, form, blah, 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 even if you're an abstract painter. That's all you've got to learn, and the rest of it comes from you putting it out there and remembering the golden rules that I gave. Is that what's on your easel right now? If it's not, if it's something that is just you processing something that doesn't really have that feeling, like that, keep it in your dungeon. Would someone want to hang this on the wall and look at it for the next 10 years? Bingo. There it is. That's the takeaway. See you next time.